Maryann, Maryann, Maryann.
Sir.
Just a minute, I've got a few more Maryann.
Though Dawn Wells' Maryann Summers may seem annoyed by Russell Johnson's Professor Roy Hinckley in that clip, there was much more than that going on behind the scenes of the hit TV show Gilligan's Island. Dawn was married to her agent at the time, yet she and Russell were passionately drawn to each other. And the decision she made because of that would be one she would regret for the rest of her life. What exactly happened? Stick around to find out. Right from the early 20s, Hollywood thrilled audiences with tales about sexually liberated women, and so began the rise of the Hollywood sex symbol. For many years, though, sex symbols were defined by a pair of fixed traits, and this was the case right up until the golden age of TV. Dawn Wells' Maryann Summers was never meant to be a sex symbol. Instead, she was meant to provide a nerdy contrast to Tina Louise's smoking hot Ginger Grant. But as the show went on, one thing quickly became apparent. Fans were as hot for Maryann as they were for Ginger Grant. All of a sudden, sexiness had a new face. Instead of the voluptuousness we had come to expect from sex symbols like Anita Ekberg, Dawn Wells was proving it could be lithe and supple as well. Instead of the airheaded innocence we had come to expect from sex symbols like Marilyn Monroe, Dawn Wells was proving it could be smart and sophisticated as well. Instead of the worldliness we had come to expect from sex symbols like Jane Mansfield, Dawn Wells was proving it could be deep and layered as well. Well, this sudden, intense desire for Dawn Wells sparked an intense debate among the fans of Gilligan's Island, a debate that still rages today: Ginger or Maryann. Though the ladies were pitted against each other often on the show and in fan forums, they were actually very good friends. Maryann versus Ginger was such a serious debate that it inspired countless adverts, essays, and videos, all of varying seriousness. Heck, there was even a sermon delivered on the topic one time. Maryann was the ultimate girl next door, sparking the fantasies of sexually repressed American men, particularly of the suburban variety. Her outfits on the show were so provocative that various organizations tried to get them censored again and again and again. But what is the answer to the question, though? Who did most fans actually prefer? Well, in Dawn Wells' opinion, Maryann always came up ahead of Ginger. But was she being biased, or was she being honest? Well, looking at the facts, Dawn received between 3,000 to 5,000 fan letters weekly, while Tina Louise received between 1,500 and 2,000. That just about settles things, doesn't it?
Castaway contest.
Well, while Dawn Wells was coveted by hundreds of thousands of fans around the world, many powerful men in Hollywood were going through the same kind of pain. That's the attractive power of sex appeal. And who did Dawn give herself over to? The answer may just knock your socks off. 2 years before the release of Gilligan's Island, Dawn Wells got married to Larry Rosen, who was a talent agent at the time. He saw something in Dawn way before anyone else and sought to marry her with the goal of propelling her career. Well, with Larry's Hollywood connections, it didn't take long for a hit show like Gilligan's Island to come calling for Dawn. Unfortunately for him, though, that marked the beginning of the decline of his beloved relationship. Larry Rosen made a huge mistake when he agreed with Dawn not to publicize their marriage. The two were united in a small ceremony in Hawaii without any press at all. Dawn refused to disclose her married status as she entered Hollywood for fear that she wouldn't be able to attract interesting roles. Well, this meant that her fellow actors didn't know she was married and acted like it.
Lastly, was Maryann ever married? No, she wasn't. She's still waiting. But Dawn was. I was married when I was doing the show, actually. I was a Mrs. then.
It wasn't until years later that Dawn revealed the truth to everyone, but by then, it was too late. During the show, Alan Hale, the skipper, was like a father figure to Dawn. It was not appropriate for the two of them to romantically gravitate towards each other. However, Dawn's other castmate, Russell Johnson, was who she actually had the hots for. She was just downright crazy about him. Did Russell know Dawn was married at the time of their affair? Heck no. Even years after the show ended, he still affirmed that she was unmarried.
With the exception, I think, of Dawn and Tina, everybody else is married. We all had families.
But while entanglements between castmates were quite common in Hollywood, the relationship between Dawn and Russell was a little bit more than that.
And I know you are still friends.
with Russell Johnson.
Oh, what a joy. What a lovely, lovely, lovely man.
In one of her interviews, when asked which member of the cast Maryann Summers was most likely to end up in a relationship with, Dawn did not hesitate to say the professor. According to her, Alan Hale was too patriarchal, and Bob Denver was too idiotic. Well, that left the professor, who was impressive in every way. Too bad for Dawn, Russell Johnson was married and was unwilling to leave his wife for her.
Handsome, dear, a wonderful man. We're very close. I love that man. I love him dearly.
Well, Dawn and Russell remained friends for many years after the show's end. But even after she divorced her husband, the relationship between them wasn't to be. In fact, Dawn came to respect Russell's decision to stick with his wife, as she found her quite impressive as well. In time, though, Dawn started to gravitate towards another castmate of Gilligan's Island. Remember when we said Bob Denver's Gilligan was too idiotic to be a partner for Dawn Wells' Maryann? Well, thank the heavens actors are not their characters. Sure, nothing was ever actually confirmed, given how secretive Dawn could be about such things, but she and Bob Denver were seen many times together in intimate settings to drive fans crazy with curiosity.
Our hearts are made of it. Let's take a chance. Why be afraid of it?
Interestingly, the sparks between Dawn and Bob were sparked on the set of the show. Maryann had her fair share of raunchy scenes with each male member of the cast, and Gulliver was not left behind. At the time of filming, though, just like Russell Johnson, he was married. But hey, he did not remain married forever. As she started in the industry so young, Dawn Wells had a near 60-year career. Although the first half of that career was quite exciting, the second half was quite a bumpy ride. Dawn had her start in showbiz when she won the Miss Nevada beauty pageant and won the chance to represent her state at the Miss America contest in New Jersey. At the end of her career, though, her body was ravaged by illness, and she struggled to pay off her medical bills. For as much sex appeal as Dawn Wells had in her life, she ended up all alone. She did not have any lasting loves, nor did she have any children. In one interview, she confessed that she actually wanted to have children, but did not find the right person. She also revealed she was too busy with her career to date appropriately. Even though Dawn Wells contributed greatly to the archetype of a new kind of sex symbol, she still met the same fate as most of the other classic sex symbols. Like the rest of them, she burned bright and faded fast. As recently as 2005, her iconic Gilligan's Island outfit sold for $20,000. It's sad how less than 20 years later, she had to organize GoFundMe's to stay financially afloat.
The things that you owe money for are
Taxes, medical, and just bills.
How exactly did Dawn's fall from grace come through? Even in the later years, she always looked good. However, right before her death, things got pretty bad for her. So what exactly happened? Well, after the conclusion of Gilligan's Island, Dawn never really landed any major role. And with how successful the show was, she didn't feel the pressure to. But all things, as they say, come to an end. Gilligan's Island fandom dried up, putting her in a very precarious position. Dawn herself tried to keep the fire burning. She used the last of her star power to organize the family film festival known as Spudfest. There, she showed appreciation to fellow TV stars such as Barbara Eden and Lou Ferrigno. However, this didn't revive the magic. Well, Dawn managed to age gracefully right up until she developed dementia. From that point onward, her decline was swift and pitiful.
It's scary, and you really don't know if you don't have a family or a husband or anybody that's got a bankroll for you. It's very expensive.
And with no family of her own around her, she was no doubt exploited by her handlers. Seeing her transform so much in so little a time was such a sad sight to behold. This has been the crazy, untold sex life of Dawn Wells. From what we have learned, it's almost as if the cast of Gilligan's Island were really trapped on an island. Romances blossomed quite easily between cast members, and they all maintained an unshakable bond for years after the show ended. Would Dawn's life and career have turned out differently had she ignored her marital commitments and picked one of the men from the show? Who's to say? That won't stop diehard fans of the show from wondering about it, though. And who can blame them? If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.